Guys, we're here with Rick Scythe of Usurper and Scythe and of Nightshade. So how you doing, Rick?
I'm doing good, Nathan. How you doing?
I'm doing great. So, the RIP Festival is coming up November 8th, so next Saturday. How are you excited for it? Is it something you're looking forward to?
Definitely something I'm looking forward to. This is it's been in the works for a while. You know, this was planned for. We were talking about it last year, saying, "Wow, it's going to be 20 years now since Diabolicus came out. It's going to be 20 years since the RIP Records has been around. It's been then we're sitting around talking about all the great releases that were on RIP Records throughout the years, and just some of the weird memories that we've had, and all the there's been so many bands, so many different styles, and it's come and go since then. And RIP Records has always kind of held their ground and always supported the kind of metal that they liked. So this was kind of a thing that spawned from that, saying, "Wow, we should do a fest. Maybe we could get together, some of these old bands that were on the label that broke up since then, and maybe some of the newer bands, and just do something really cool."
Yeah, none of that emo, screamo crap on there.
None of that. It's exactly against all that, or even all these modern trends, and there's always seems to be new flavors of the month and new ways, directions people perceive metal, and now it's getting more confusing because there's so many subgenres now of people who, if you see them in a crowd, they're wearing all those bright patches on their vest, and you would think they're diehards, but when you get to talk to them and get to see what they're really into, it's something totally different than the kind of metal that RIP stands for. So this was a perfect opportunity to put together best with all these bands, and we're just glad to be part of it.
What would you say is a RIP release you look back and, other than the stuff you've released, that you really like that they have released?
It depends. There's so much of it. Like the Lordswear stuff, I think that was really overlooked. It was it came out at a time when it wasn't that before this big resurgence of death metal, thrash metal. It kind of fit in with that. I like all that stuff. I like the Skulljuice stuff is really interesting. I like a lot of it. And all the Sabbat stuff is incredible. I've always been a big fan of that. So it's just different things throughout the years, and there's definitely a wide variety. It's not one of those labels that's pigeonholed, "Oh, we only do stoner doom metal," or something, like some of these labels that come around. It's just simply what Stan envisions the kind of bands he likes and he puts out, and you find it interesting, because I'm a fan of bands that just play good solid metal. I don't care really what genre it fits in with, or if it's trendy with the flavor of the month crowd, or PC crust might seem to like it or not. I really don't give a fuck about any of that shit.
Yeah, and also like you were saying, but also the Eat the Corpse bands, just that generic death metal that just sucks. So
yeah, and I'm not even so much against a lot of these bands that play that kind of music. They're into it. They're diehard into doing that, but it doesn't really grab me. So, and it's not about the riffs. If the riffs aren't there and it doesn't make your head bang, I don't care how extreme it is. It's just, to me, it's not something I'm going to listen to.
Obviously, the Usurper reunion was a big thing for the RIP Fest. Why did it fall out, or what was the story behind that?
Well, honestly, it is a little disappointing that it's not happening. This was something that both myself and Joe Warlord, Usurper drummer, talking about for years. A few years after Usurper broke up, we would get together and talk about doing something, either recording some songs, playing a show, something like that. And the time was just starting to feel right that we should do something. At the same time, this RIP show was in the works. So this was probably January 2014. And that's when both myself and Joe started really rehearsing again and playing these Usurper songs, and it's been sounding great. I mean, some of the stuff is, once we got into it, it sounded better than ever. John Necromancer wanted to do it. I didn't even think he would want to for whatever. I mean, I can't understand why any of these guys wouldn't want to do it, for one show. All the years, all the history this band has had, all the, I mean, this is the band that we all kind of cut our teeth with. So why anyone who was part of it, who could still do it, wouldn't want to do it, beyond me, but everyone has their own reasons. That's fine. John Necromancer was on board. We rehearsed a bunch of times. We talked about it. I told him, look, this show is already set up. We wouldn't have to do any promotion. People would be pretty excited about it. They're going to be flying in anyway for the show, and everything seemed cool. And then all of a sudden, we just weren't rehearsing as much anymore, and one thing led to another, and those guys decided for whatever reason they didn't want to do the show anymore. They wanted to do it at another time. Again, I'm not talking shit about anyone. It's unfortunate. Hopefully we can get something going again. Everyone, I guess they have their reason to why it didn't feel right all of a sudden. But, same token, I don't want to do anything half-assed either. So if we weren't dedicating the proper amount of time to rehearse, it was probably be pointless to go up there and perform and not do it 100%. To me, it's Usurper always gave 100% on stage. Even if, certain members of the band were arguing at the time, if we weren't getting along, whatever the case was, once we hit the stage, we were always so well rehearsed and so into what we were doing that it was always something we took a lot of pride with. So I kind of felt the same way. Well, if we're not going to, it's not going to be 100%, let's not do it. It would have been cool, even if it was going to be myself, John, and Joe just up there. We didn't have General, didn't want to do it. Dan couldn't do it. So I didn't want to just get another vocalist. I figured both myself and John are more than capable to do this. And for any of the kids who were too young to see Usurper, and even the old fans of the band, it would have been cool. At least it would have been 3 of the original members up there playing all these songs. But hopefully, maybe somewhere down the road, it will happen again.
Yeah, hopefully. What was the General's reasoning behind not playing?
I'm not too sure. It's disappointing because I was talking to him, probably over a year ago, and he was telling me, oh, it'd be cool to record something again. It would be cool to, do some vocals again. Even if it's a demo of something, even if we're just doing it, maybe a song or two. And I did mention to him that, hey, we're doing this show, I think, this is going to happen. And he seemed like he was kind of interested, but he wasn't sure if he could do it, if he still had it in him, if he was still going to be able to dedicate himself. And he was kind of on the fence. And then he just decided he didn't feel like doing it. It's disappointing. I mean, we're not getting any younger. Yeah. And it's not like he's doing any other bands or anything. You can't dedicate enough time to go on stage and play for 45 minutes for some diehard fans or some kids who've never seen you before. I think, the problem is, these guys don't realize that Usurper actually, people still give a fuck about seeing it and want to see it. And so, I don't know. I don't want to put words in anyone's mouth, but they don't want to do it. I can't force them to do it.
Yeah, I understand. So let's just go on to Scythe. Obviously, Scythe's playing the festival still, and people can see you. Is there a possibility, I gotta ask for the fans that are going, any Usurper songs maybe leak into the Scythe set?
Well, we we used to play quite a few Usurper songs when Scythe first started out. And unfortunately, these guys didn't want to do any. I figured we could do a song or two, but they didn't really feel like doing it. I think it was just because, I mean, I could kind of understand they felt like Usurper was supposed to play, and now they're not. So, why just do that when we have our own songs? So, Scythe has so many songs that we figure we'll just stick to the Scythe material.
Is there a Scythe song you haven't played live that you would like to play?
I think we've played every song that from both albums. I think at one point or another we have. I'm trying to think of if there's one we haven't played live ever, but I can't remember if I think we've played every song live at least once. But there's songs that we haven't played in a long time. I know that. Like, we haven't played Eye of the Crow in a long time, so we're going to play that for this RIP Fest. We haven't played Opus Day of the Dead. We haven't played that since Beware the Scythe just came out. So I think we're going to play that one, too.
Oh, that'd be very cool.
So it'll be fun to play some of these old songs that we kind of forgot about.
Yeah. On the second record, Subterranean Steel, on the European edition, there's writing in Latin on the disc. I wonder, what does that mean? I think it's Latin.
What was on the disc? Oh, the Latin term?
Yes.
There was, I can't remember offhand. It was, can't remember the wording offhand, but it was basically, something about being three as one, something in that vein. I can't remember. He kind of put me on the spot. I haven't seen it in a while, but it was the cool thing about that was it's an old woodcut from Europe, and the funny thing about it is the original woodcut of that is supposed to look like it's this city that's blessed from the heavens, where this cloud's opening up and these beams are coming down. But when we look at it, it looked like a mushroom cloud blowing up this old medieval city. So it was just, it's perfect for Scythe because it blends in both of, the modern
and the old
stuff. Bloom of, the technology run wild and the New World Order stuff with all the old medieval stuff, which is kind of a blend of our lyrical topics. So I thought that was kind of a clever thing to do.
Yeah, that is. It's really cool. I want to ask, obviously, if people don't follow you on Facebook, they may not know, is that you have your own guitar line.
Yeah.
How did that come to be? Was it just an idea you always want to do, or how did that come?
Oh, yeah. It was definitely something I always wanted to do. I keep a sketchbook by me all the time. I'm either drawing stuff, writing music, writing lyrics, writing down stuff from my dreams, whatever it is, not to sound lame like that, but it's just anything that inspires ideas. Sometimes you'll be dreaming of something and it's a guitar riff. And it's like, man, if you don't write it down, you're going to forget it, or some lyrics or an idea from something. That time when you're sleeping in bed and you're just having these thoughts are just between dream and thinking. That's usually when I come up with, either an invention or something like that. So I usually always try to have kind of like a sketchbook by me for any of this stuff, an invention idea, anything like that. So I've always come up with guitar shapes and ideas. Figured I wanted to do it eventually. But what happened was, about a year and a half ago, our old rehearsal room got burglarized. Somebody broke in, and these scumbags stole a lot of our equipment, including my handmade BC Rich. The USA custom shop BC Rich Ironbird. I took it all over the world. It was custom built to my specs. I picked out the wood, the pickups, the hardware, everything about it was customized for me. I was the only one who ever played it. I don't buy guitars off, a wall at Guitar Center. I don't buy cheap pieces of garbage. yeah, my guitars, I have about 11 guitars, and they're all quality. So, but that was probably my prized possession. So I was kind of crushed about that happening, but I figured I'm going to actually use this opportunity then to start my own guitar line. So I talked to Luthier from overseas, and very skilled at what they do. And I just went over all my specs. I designed everything on the computer, picked out the wood, discussed with him about the different wood tonal qualities, the different, down to every spec of the guitar, and sent in blueprints to him. And it was probably about an eight-month process of going back and forth. And finally I got it made, and it's in my hands now. So I'm going to be starting, I have some other shapes I'm working on, and other ideas of woods to use, and other people who contact me that are interested in my guitars. So it's something that came out of something that was very negative and turned into something positive.
That's great. But one thing I want to ask, do you have an idea of who took your guitar? Maybe rumors or camera footage?
Yeah, we have good ideas. Unfortunately, you're dealing with police a lot of times. Unless they're making money off you somehow, they really don't give a fuck too much about helping you out. So that we went to some dead ends with that. But I don't want to say too much here. But yeah, we have an idea.
Okay. And also, so do we just contact you for your guitars? Hopefully, are they going to go on sale in the near future?
I think so. Like right now, I'm working on the next model, and I'm going to have probably 3 models by mid-2015. Then I'll have a proper website. Right now, I just have a Facebook page kind of just displaying the guitar that I have now. But when I have the other models, I'm going to have a proper website, and people could contact me directly, work together on it. It will be, my custom shapes, and they'll all be hand-built. So you could customize it to basically what you want. I don't like a trem. I just like a standard bridge. I'm very heavy-handed. I slam on the string. I don't need that. Some people like a trem. Some people want, humbucker and, single coil bridge pickup. Some people, I don't like that. So I want to work with, if people are interested in it, I want to work with not only getting a quality handmade guitar into their hands, but something that's built to their specs, and something that is, on top of it, is affordable too. That's not gouging someone for this kind of quality. So I think it could be a pretty cool thing.
I would suggest whoever's listening to definitely check out your Facebook page to see the guitar and support you on that, because it looks pretty awesome. I definitely want to get my hands on that. So, obviously, there was a little contest. A lot of people haven't seen it, but we're talking about Usurper trivia, and came up Usurper demos. So, do you think maybe in the future we will see that being released as maybe as a vinyl and or CD release?
Definitely, it's something I want to do. I'm just not sure exactly how and when to do it. For people who don't understand, this isn't a demo of the entire band playing in a studio. What I've done since the mid-'90s was when I write music, I'd like to record it. I'll record it with, I'll play all the instruments, and it's just basically a demo model to give to the guys in the band. Now with Usurper, if you look on the credits, I wrote pretty much the majority of the music, and later on even the lyrics. But it's not, I don't want to short sell anyone in the band. I've always surrounded myself with bandmates that have a lot to contribute. So even though I would write something, when I give it to the band members, there's always enough room for them to improvise, kind of play off my riffs, come up with their own, whether it's a bass line or cool percussion arrangements around my basic drum beats, and or the vocal. Sometimes I would just have the concept of the song, the title, what it's about, maybe a few lines of lyrics, and give it to whoever the vocalist was, whether it was Dan or a general, and then let them explore their lyrical topics. And so at the end of it, it becomes a whole band effort. So anyway, the last set of demos that I recorded had like 7 or 8 songs, and these were the demo tracks that I gave to the guys in the band to learn the songs, and then when they learn it, it grows and would have kind of evolved into what would have been the final Usurper album. Well, Usurper broke up before we could do that, so I just had these songs for a while. A few of them, I changed some stuff around, used it for Scythe album. Some of the songs weren't changed around too much. They're pretty direct. Others of it, there's some pieces of it that if you're familiar with Scythe, you're going to, when you hear these Usurper demos, say, oh, yeah, that riff is from this song or that song or something like that. But it's pretty cool because I know now everyone has a computer in their bedroom with sophisticated software where you can plug in and record and it sounds like an album. I didn't do these that way. I did these on it was called a Tascam 4-track. Some people know what that is. It's basically, it almost looks like a cassette tape. Well, it looks exactly like a cassette tape, but it's split up so you can record 4 independent tracks on it. And it's very low fidelity, and you have to bounce tracks around to get multiple tracks. And it's not made for like the digital age, really. So it's kind of hard to get it transferred, but I did. And, the very few people who've heard it, I think kind of like what they heard. And I think it would be interesting just for the diehard fans. So getting back to your question, I don't know if I'm just going to release it digitally or maybe a 7-inch series, maybe an LP, maybe a cassette version, maybe all of those formats. I'm not sure. I just have to find out when would be the right time to put this out and how to put it out, and just make sure people know it's not the whole band, even though these were songs for the next Usurper album, it's not the whole band playing on it, and it's not like how it would have sounded if the whole band played on it.
Yeah, I understand. From like a collector's point of view, I bet you're a collector as well. I would love to get it as a physical rather than it being released digitally, because I think those,
that's cool.
Because the people who get it physically are obviously the fans.
Yeah, I'm kind of leaning toward that too, because this isn't mass. It's not going to be something like really mass produced and not something that's going to be promoted on a big label or anything. This is going to be more intimate, where I think that the few diehard remaining Usurper fans out there who have everything and need to have everything, I think they're going to want to hear this, and I think they're going to want to hear it properly. They might feel cheated if it's just online, something like that. So that's probably the way I'm leaning to, so it's good to hear that.
Yeah, you know what I would like to see? I know it probably you have to find like demos, if you had demos, but it would be great to have seen the Metal War 7-inch series. If you could have like found like a Metal Lust demo, maybe Metal Lust Live, and put on a 7-inch.
God, I have so many. See, I recorded every album on 4-track demo, from Skeletal Season to Crypto Beast and up through this 7-song demo I was just talking about. I just had to find these and somehow get them transferred. I don't know. I moved so many times since then, but I remember specifically Skeletal Season. The demos of that were even creepier sounding and even stranger. And it's a shame I don't have those anymore. But I know I have them somewhere. I just have to dig them out and find them. I think people might want to hear that. I was thinking about it the other day, since it's the Skeletal Season right now, and I was thinking about it as the gloom was setting in over the Chicago area, and I was pulling out Skeletal Season, and anyone familiar with me on Facebook knows that I update the stuff according to either when the album came out or the time of year or something. So I had a lot of Skeletal Season stuff, and I was thinking, man, this would be a great album to re-release, and maybe even do like a double CD where it has the original album on one disc and then the demo songs on another disc, like a 2-disc set. I think that would be kind of cool, but
I would buy that. Find the demo.
Yeah, it would be pretty cool. The thing I like about Skeletal Season a lot, too, was just the layout, the artwork. It was probably my favorite Usurper artwork. I had the painting hanging up in my house. I got, it's just the Finnish artist from Finland, his name's Juha Vorma. He did that album cover. He did some other ones for us, too. He did Beware the Scythe vinyl. He did the Subterranean Steel cassette artwork. He's just an incredible guy, and his artwork's very unique. But that was like the masterpiece of all the stuff he did for us. And it was, it just fit the lyrical theme. And then the booklet also kind of fit the lyrical theme. That was, to me, that was probably the best artwork and layout that we had.
Yeah, that's actually my favorite Usurper artwork, personally.
Oh, cool. All right.
Yeah. I was going to ask.
I liked all the artwork we did. I always felt like it fit with the theme of the album, but somehow that the artwork really seemed to kind of match the tones on that album, even not just like the songs and the lyrical topics, just the actual, when you hear the tone of that album and you kind of see the music in your head, it feels like how that painting looks.
Yeah, that painting is just, has a dark atmosphere.
Yeah, definitely.
With that album, why did you go with the route of layering? Because obviously, Diablosis and Threshold are totally different beasts. Yes, when you listen to it, it's a Usurper record. You know it's Usurper.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah,
with Skeletal, you obviously it's a little bit more layered and way more heavy and dark compared to Threshold, which had I guess people would say more of a black metal tinge, I guess you would say, because it's a little more chaotic. Okay. And then the first album was a little more, you had fast songs, but you also had like more mid-paced songs. So what made you go for the Skeletal Season sound? What was your main objective?
Well, it was really weird. It was, what happened was like Diablosis and Threshold the Usurper, that's when General was still mainly writing all the lyrics. I was basically doing all the music, and he was pretty much writing all the lyrics. So his lyrics came from a different perspective. I think they're great. It's awesome. But my lyrics, the stuff I was in, basically what happened was I always wanted him to write the lyrics. I figured the guy singing should write more of the lyrics because it's their voice coming through. So it probably makes more sense to me anyway for them to write the lyrics. What happened was, when it came time when I was demoing the songs for Skeletal Season, General wasn't really, he was writing some stuff here and there, but he wasn't writing as much as like he used to. It seemed like he was kind of not so much into, really keeping on pace with me writing and kind of kicking back. And he said, "Oh yeah, Rick, you could write some stuff, you think that's some ideas." I was reading a lot of real obscure books. That was before the internet was around, or if it was around, I didn't have it. So figure some of those songs were like from 95, 94, I think 96 was, a lot of them were written. I didn't have the internet. I didn't even know what it was. So I had a lot of books, and I would just find them at like occult bookstores, or I would have these like catalogs of obscure books. So I was coming up with really, really cool topics. People were saying, America doesn't have any history, such a new country. Yeah, it's a new country, but there's a lot of history. This land has been here as long as Europe. And just because we don't have, the written European history doesn't mean that the people who are living here in the United States didn't have their own history. And there's a lot of creepy things that happen here, a lot of paranormal stuff, a lot of unexplained mythology and monster folklore. And then, so I was reading a lot of books like that, and I figured these would be cool topics for songs. And, like the Mothman stuff. I was reading Mothman Prophecy, the book, before that movie came out. And the author John Keel, I was reading his other stuff. And it was really cool. There's some really dark, twisted things that happened. And then you're thinking about, open my mind up to like, wow, there could be other dimensions and things that we don't know that are around. And so I began using that as basically what I wanted to write about. Figured, well, if I'm writing the lyrics, it's going to be a lot of stuff that I'm into. I can't fake it and just, I'm going to try to write lyrics like General would write. I just had to write my own style. And the cool thing about it was no one was doing that at the time. People might be doing it now, but no one was writing about cryptozoological creatures back then. No one was writing about, like, Mothman or any of, these weird monster folklore and stuff like that. And to me, reading that, it's like, God, this is a great backdrop for extreme metal or, like, dark music. And so writing that, and then the music I always wanted to make the music fit with it. So to me, it was like, God, these are dark topics. I want to start writing some darker riffs and really layer things. And we didn't do that with Pro Tools or anything. This was all done on reel-to-reel. So you had to, like, go in there and actually do all this stuff. This wasn't fake. So we didn't have, like, a lot of instruments. I'd use old guitars and try to get weird feedback tones and stuff underneath. And the funny thing is, you spend all that time doing it, and comes out, and Necropolis hated it. Oh, this doesn't sound like what's out there now. This doesn't sound, that's when I think they had witchery and stuff like that, which was just this modern, slick sounding retro thrash. And we were moving into a direction that didn't fit in with anything. I mean, to me, that was probably our most original sounding album. So it wasn't. I don't know if people totally appreciated it. I know there's people that do appreciate it. There's a weird segment of Usurper fans where that's their favorite album by Usurper. So it's cool that it meant something to someone, I guess.
Yeah, that's probably is one of my favorite. It's really hard because some days I'm like, oh, Skeletons, and then another day I might be Necronemesis or Twilight
Very
Dominion.
cool, man. Yeah,
so,
yeah.
Yeah, I just want to put it out there. If anybody knows a band that does cryptozoological, I want to know, because I think Usurper is the only band I know that ever delved into that stuff, especially about werewolves and all that. No one.
Yeah. There might be bands now that write about werewolves and stuff, but we were doing that back then, and I haven't heard too many bands when we were doing that. I didn't hear of any bands that were doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah, very little. And also, so I want to ask, when did you get into, like, obviously, like, like you're saying, there's no internet. How did you find out about these bookstores, or just, how did you get a hold of this stuff?
It was just something that I was always interested in. As a kid, I think a lot of kids are, when, especially maybe my generation, where, you were, you just hear stuff about UFOs or something like that as a kid, and to me, I would always be looking up in the sky trying to see something, and hearing stories of ghosts and demonic possessions and stuff like that. And I'm trying to think, is this stuff real? Is it not real? And it was just hard to come by. There was like little magazines and stuff, very thin ones. Like I think one of them was Nexus, one of them was I'm trying to think of the name of the other one. There was a few of them that I would find here and there. And like newsstands and stuff, and I'd always pick them up. They'd have like blurry pictures of UFOs on the cover and things like that. And to me, it was just fascinating. It just opened my mind. I think a lot of people who claim to be skeptics, they aren't skeptical at all. They have what they mean by being skeptical is saying, I have a set belief system that's rooted heavily into what the mainstream tells me, and I'm going to doubt everything else, and I'm going to just not believe anything else. Where, to me, I think I'm more of a skeptic. I'm open-minded. I question everything. Question where, the mainstream is telling you stuff. I think it's more important to have an open mind and question things than to just believe anything. So I'm not saying I believe every UFO story, anything like that. I don't know what this is. I don't know what any of it, maybe none of it's true. I don't know, but I find a lot of this stuff interesting.
Yeah, so you're not going to be, so when, certain, I'm just going to say, certain people in power,
Yeah.
let's just say, oh, take, the flu shot, that's fine, or not just flu shot, but all these shots. And then, but that's fine. But when people say, like you, oh, hey, there might be something more to this, you're a person in wrong. I don't get that.
Well, yeah, exactly. The second you question something, you're just labeled a conspiracy nut. That it's, you're a conspiracy nut. It's like, I'm not a conspiracy nut. I'm asking questions because everything doesn't seem logical about what you're saying about stuff. And maybe it is. Maybe there's a logical reason why, the mainstream's pushing stuff on you, or just general things like that. But to me, it's more important I always want to question things and figure out for myself. And the one thing I've always learned in life is you gotta really, if something doesn't seem right, it usually isn't right. You gotta really trust your instinct. I think a lot of people don't. I think a lot of people just go around like, okay, this is what I heard, end of story, that's what I believe, I'm getting on with my day. To me, it's much more interesting to
research it,
to examine things and say, wow, something doesn't seem right about this. I wonder why. I'm going to look into it. It's more interesting to me.
Yeah, if I remember hearing right, I'm not 100% sure, but I wouldn't be shocked. Is that during the Nixon administration, that's when they kind of pinned the whole conspiracy theorist thing. That's when they kind of spread that around to make us look like we're crazy. Or people that are like that, they'll say, oh, you're just a conspiracy nut with wearing your tin hat in your house.
Yeah, I love that one. It seems like that's always something you hear from, oh, okay, put on your tinfoil hat. It's like, okay, well, you're completely ignorant to the topic, so that's what you're saying. I'm not saying, I'm all in on anything. I don't know. I'm just questioning things, and if something doesn't seem right, I'm going to ask questions about it. And if people don't want to have an intelligent conversation about it, that's fine. I respect their opinion. But don't start slamming me saying, oh, put on your tinfoil hat. Okay, well, I bet if we sat down and talked about it, I know much more about this topic than you do. And if I know that much more about it, and I still have questions, why are you so quick to dismiss me as some kind of nut?
Yeah. So it's kind of weird, in a sense, is that, obviously, like we were talking about with Skeletal, there's songs about like, the Mothman, and then let's just say we go to Necronemesis. You have songs like Incubus Breed, which is based off Keel's opinion on the UFO being more of entities rather than physical craft.
Yeah, like interdimensional, travelers or something like that.
Whatever it could be. And, obviously there's songs in there like, I think it's Slaughter Storm, where it's about Pennsylvania, right? About
I think so,
like a beast
I'm trying to remember. It's been a while, but
then it's kind of interesting how you go from that, and then you go to, let's just say, Twilight Dominion, and you talk about Struggle of Tyrants, which leads into the One World Order, New World Order, government type stuff. It kind of is all intertwined, which is very interesting.
I think it is all intertwined, and again, people don't have to believe it is fact. I don't know how much of it is fact. I don't know how much of it is fiction. To me, it's interesting stories for a metal album, but when you start looking at these stories and looking at even old legends and old civilizations and things like that, it all kind of ties in together. You're looking at stuff from Lemuria and, it's the lost continent, and then you're looking at symbolism that, globalist companies use, and it's the same. So you wonder how much of this that they know about, and it's just interesting how everything is kind of intertwined.
Yeah. What would you say is your favorite song off? Like actually that you actually put a lot of work as in just this whole story, the concept of a song. What would you say is your favorite that you've done so far?
For Usurper or for Scythe?
Let's just say Usurper.
Usurper is kind of, let's see, I would say, there's probably a few, I like Dismal Wings of Terror, which is about Mothman, of course, but the way I wrote that was, it was such a mysterious story. I wanted to write it kind of like how a Nostradamus prophecy would be written, something like that, or, how cryptic some of these clues were for the original Mothman case. In other words, I didn't want it to just be like this linear story about, this creature. When you're reading it, it's, okay, what does this line mean? What does this line mean? It was always kind of cryptic and twisted. So and then the music, I wanted to be real chaotic and over the top, and it just kind of builds up to this crescendo toward the end. And so to me, that was like the first time where I really was real conscious about that, about how the lyrics were going to be perceived and how the dynamics of the song were going to build up, where it wasn't, some of the Usurper songs are just straightforward and others are kind of have a lot of parts, and this was kind of in between that, where it kind of had a structure that you felt comfortable with, and then it kind of builds into a crescendo where you didn't see that coming. So that's one of them. I like Vatican Time Machine a lot from Twilight Dominion. It's kind of a basic rock song almost, but the lyrics, again, are really crazy about this device called a chronovisor, which supposedly is in the Vatican now, where this monk invented this machine where you could see into the past, and he was almost excommunicated for it, and just really cool. And supposedly they still have it, whether they do or not, whether it's true or not, I don't know. But I thought it was a pretty cool story.
Yeah. Yeah, that's.
So what's one of your favorite Usurper songs for that? Those reasons.
For those reasons, probably
like where the lyrics and music,
probably
and
Incubus
that
Breed.
kind of Incubus Breed.
Probably, yeah. Because that was one of the first things I thought that's kind of interesting, hitting it from a totally different perspective.
Yeah, very cool, man. Yeah, it's cool that you noticed that. It's I find it kind of interesting because who knows what these stories are all about. But
because you got like a band like Hypocrisy that talks about like UFOs. I said you got a band like Hypocrisy that talks about UFOs. I don't know everything, but I know they do have some. And it's just kind of like your usual type of thing, Whereas with Usurper, just hit it from this really, almost, if anything, it's almost a little more, it's more creepier because it makes you think, okay, wait, that opens up a whole different can of worms. In a sense,
it's very cool that you said that, because I was reading a lot of stuff when I wrote that about, again, John Keel talked about a lot of it, but if you study even like demonic possessions or tales, even stuff from the Bible or something about like angels and demons and things like that, and then you tie in like modern UFO stories and stuff, some of it had a lot of parallels to it. So I wanted to kind of approach it from, who knows what you're calling these beings, but they're all kind of doing the same thing.
Yeah. Another song I would say I think was really awesome was Full Metal Maelstrom. That was an interesting story. I always liked that one.
Full Metal Maelstrom.
Maelstrom, my bad. Maelstrom. That's a great one.
Cool, man. Yeah, that was about the Philadelphia experiment, about the battleship that was somehow lost in some kind of time warp that they created, and all kinds of weird stuff happened. So it was like, we used to joke around with that. There was Dave Hellstrom playing drums. We used to say it was the world's slowest blast beat in there, but it was supposed to sound like that on purpose. It's supposed to kind of sound militant sounding.
Yeah.
But it just sounds funny, because it's kind of like this weird beat that's not. It's just kind of. To me, it sounds like is he trying to play a blast beat, but really slow or something, it just has kind of a weird feel. But I mean, that's the cool way 'cause it kind of works with the song. It's just supposed to have this militant kind of drum beat because it dealt with a lot of the military stuff. And again, that was Prescriptor McGovern from Absinthe did backing vocals on that. And his vocals are fucking great. You know, he has just these good shrieks in there, and he's a true professional. And that was cool. We were in Texas using the same studio that Absinthe used, and also King Diamond used, and both those guys sang on our album, so it was kind of a pretty cool thing.
Yeah. So you've been a pretty big, anybody who knows you knows that you're a big Slayer fan, Celtic Frost fan, and a King Diamond Merciful Fate fan. And
Yeah.
So, what is your favorite? What was your favorite, like I should say, songs, or I don't know. Let's not put that. What introduced you to each of those bands? That's a better question. What?
It's hard to say. It's just back when those bands were coming out. I think I'm trying to remember where I heard all of them, but I think I heard Frost on one of these Metal Blade compilations and thought it was pretty cool. And I know Slayer, I just saw the album. I saw the ads I think in Hit Parader magazine and some of the early rock magazines, and I was real young, and I see ads for Show No Mercy, and what the hell is this? Then I went to the record store and I saw the albums, and I thought, oh wow, that's pretty cool looking. Picked it up, and then it just grows on you. And same with Merciful Fate. I think what that was from the days when go to the record store. And they used to have the import section and say import, and it was mainly just metal albums. It was just, so I would thumb through there and try to find something with cool looking album covers. And I remember, picking up Merciful Fate albums. And there was also these record conventions that were in one of the hotels up by my house, and they had in the lobby of the hotel every Saturday, and people there. You could not only buy all these import albums, but there's a lot of people selling demos. There were usually copies of, copy tape of some band's demo, and also videotapes. I have a lot of old VHS tapes of, real early videos of, extreme thrash bands or underground bands, whatever you want to call them, from the first wave when everything was really good and interesting and new and fresh. So that's kind of what turned me on to all that, and I would always, like any kid at that time, you're always looking for the next band that's going to kick your ass. I just happened to grow up in a time when a lot of these bands would put out stuff that would kick your ass.
Yeah. So obviously, you formed the Dead Youth in the mid or late 80s. What would you? What that was at? Some of the songs obviously had a little bit of humor to it. I could tell you're having fun, but that second record it seemed to get a little more serious. But obviously, you formed Usurper.
Well, yeah, it wasn't. You got to realize there's a lot of members of that band. That was something. I was glad in high school. I always wanted to be in a band, so it wasn't something that it was something that was a lot of people were involved with, and I didn't really even know how to play guitar. I was just happy to be in a band, and but as things evolved, and I didn't like everything about it, and I wanted to do my own band that I could start from the ground up, from stuff I was interested in. So I did. It's funny because I've been playing underground music. I look back on it more than half my life, almost my entire life. I've been playing in underground bands, and I had a band before that called Armageddon, which I really just learned I didn't even know how to play guitar. But I don't regret any of that because that's where some people learn how to play their instrument by taking lessons and sitting in their bedroom. For me, that wasn't the route I wanted to go. I just wanted to always be part of a band. So even when I looked back with Armageddon, I was 15 years old, and I didn't really know how to play. I barely knew how to fucking play a guitar, and I was in a band, and I didn't care. I just wanted to play music, and I knew I'd just go on to the next thing. And that's kind of what I liked about when Usurper was formed, is that's when I felt like I finally was getting good at not only playing the guitar, but kind of writing my own music and coming up with my own vision for things I wanted to do, rather than just being part of a band that had their own vision and idea, and I didn't really know how to play.
Yeah. Would you say, in a way, was Usurper almost a screw you to the death metal scene? To the
kind
trendy?
Oh, yeah, when it came out, because it was just kind of the feel of how things were happening, especially around Chicago, in the U.S. It seemed like, okay, the original earache bands came out, and there's a lot of great music with that, but then there's a lot of bands coming out that were derivative of that. But then all those Florida death metal bands came out, and after the first wave of that, there's the second wave, third wave, and then there's all these bands that were popping up all over the place that were just copying that, blatantly copying, like, second, third wave Florida death metal, and no inspiration, and just blatant, just no ideas, no thought really behind their band. And that was what was kind of big, at least around here when we started. When Usurper was formed, it wasn't like, Rick's doing this band to cash in on some new trend. It was like, dude, that was the last thing. I mean, if I was doing that, I'd have formed a Florida death metal sounding band. This was stuff like from the heart. Like, okay, this is stuff that was influenced by stuff I liked as a young kid and picked up, and it seemed like no bands were doing it anymore. There were bands wearing the spikes, the leather. There were bands doing just the old feel of the riffs and that old spirit of heavy metal in the music. So when I hear, it was just a thing where, okay, let's do this. We had a vision, and it didn't really fit in with anything. Didn't fit in. A lot of people would lump us in with black metal bands because a lot of the original black metal bands had that kind of feel going to them. And, but we didn't really fit in with that either, maybe a little bit. But there was also maybe a little bit of our riff could fit in with the death metal scene. Maybe somebody could fit in with the thrash. But to me, it was like, this was more original. It was more from the heart, and it was definitely not copying anything that was modern or trendy that was going on.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me in a way what you're saying, to an extent, is like Dave Mustaine said about Megadeth. It's like, Megadeth's Megadeth. And the same thing with Usurper. Is, Usurper's Usurper. You can try to box it in, but it's just what it is.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Definitely. And I think a lot of people didn't even realize that when we were going. We'd get some really weird comparisons. Oh, this is retro trash or something. And it was always said it was like in a negative way. It wasn't saying that like, hey, this is from the big magazines. There's small magazines that knew what we were doing, and small fan base that did. But whenever we got into the bigger magazines and finally crack it into there, and then you look at the article, even if it was positive, a lot of times they just didn't agree with what they were saying at all. It wasn't just a slight disagreement. It was reading stuff like, okay, well, they obviously don't get it. They're portraying this completely how I want to portray us, and it makes me feel like, fuck it. I don't even want to read this,
Yeah. What are some bands like from the 90s or late 80s, I guess you could say, that kind of forced through the death and metal years? That maybe, they necessarily don't have to be death metal, but that just weren't trendy death metal. Or just, not trendy and kept going through, like, they kept to their vision. They were original. Is there any bands that you would say that come to you?
Yeah. I can't even really think offhand. I'm sure when they hang up, they'll come to mind. But to me, the problem was when Usurper formed, it was also a lot of it out of, you see like Celtic Frost all of a sudden puts out Cold Lake. It's like abandons their old sound and image, or like even Destruction. They were doing like getting kind of strange. It seemed like they wanted to be a lot more mainstream. They wanted to sound like Metallica or something. Or all these fans were like wimping out, and like it was just frustrating. Like, oh, what the fuck? All these bands that we were into where it's like, man, they either disappear or they just totally change their sound. So I think that more than anything, more than, looking at a band that stay true to what they're doing, that was one of the things that really seemed to influence Usurper. Like, well, these bands stopped doing that, we got to do it. Where's Venom? They just disappeared. Look at Scythe. They're wearing like spandex and stuff like that.
Did you destroy Cold Lake when you first got it?
What?
Did you destroy Cold Lake when you first got it?
Yeah, it was a piece of garbage. It's but that was it. Yeah. So you look at when the Usurper first formed. That was at the time when all those bands that we looked up to and we really liked. That was when all those bands were disappearing, and all the new bands were just copying this like Florida death metal sound. And that's why Usurper felt like, okay, we don't really fit in with any of that, so we're gonna just pay homage to the bands that we really like that are nowhere to be found or have totally changed their sound or something else.
Yeah. What are some bands that you formed friendships with back in the day? Back in early Usurper years when you're still writing letters?
Well, yeah, it's hard to think because that was General who was doing all the mail. Yeah, I didn't do that. I just was playing guitar, kind of coming up with some of the artwork and early concepts of the band. As far as tape trading and corresponding with bands, that was the General who was doing a lot of that. And that was, there was bands like Pinnacle that came out at the same time. I know he was corresponding with them. I know even Dissection, he was corresponding with them. Just a lot of these bands that were pretty cool when they came out. And it was just through tape trading. And General's the guy who was doing that. That was his thing. He would just stay in and do mail all the time and contact bands, fanzines, magazines. So that was mainly his department where I would stay in and write guitar riffs.
Yeah. Would you say late 90s, let's just say, let's go back to the late 90s of Usurper. So Twilight Dominion was not released yet. I think it's Visions from the Gods, right?
Yeah.
When did you start noticing all these bands, all these kids we're going to play old school metal?
Yeah, that was really weird because, I remember, the first time, when I started hearing this term retro thrash, it was when I think it was one of the first times we were featured Metal Maniacs, and they had Usurper, Absu, they had a bunch of bands from Necropolis Records also, Gehenna, all these really solid bands, and they were kind of labeling retro thrash, and it was done kind of in a mocking way almost, where they were kind of saying they liked these bands, but didn't, weren't solidly behind it. It was kind of goofing around with it. And I started, so we're well, the fuck, that's what they're going to call it. It's fine. We know what we're into, and if it's some kind of joke to these people, it's fine with us. It's this is where we're coming from. It was a little later, though. I think it was around the Twilight Dominion time, in the early 2000s, where all of a sudden it was this cool thing. And it kind of blindsided me because Usurper was always this band who kind of stuck out for resurrecting all these old bands that no one's heard of, or you wouldn't see kids at shows wearing Sodom shirts or Dark Angel shirts or anything. That was you didn't really see that too much. So all of a sudden you began seeing all these bands popping up, and they all had we're wearing all these old shirts again, but there was something, I don't know, something wasn't sitting right. It was almost too on the nose. There were bands that were coming out that were just blatant clone of one band and blatant clone of another band and kind of doing it tongue in cheek, and then they're getting praised for it, about how original they are and how great this is. I remember, so that was probably the early 2000s I began noticing that, and that's when people were just, again, it was something okay, this is funny. People were using these same words as describe Usurper, these journalists, but it was in a negative light, and they're using the exact same terms and words to review these other bands, and they're praising them. It's just the way they portrayed it. So it was always just kind of funny where Usurper was always this band that just was either overlooked by the main. I mean, again, we're more concerned with the underground kids, and the underground. Those are the people we were concerned with. It was just funny though. Anytime there's the mainstream, they're always either, we're getting the raw end of the deal with these people.
Yeah, it's almost like it seems to me. There's probably maybe other bands, but that'd be too much to go into. But Usurper was one of those bands that, yes, you were influenced by. You guys wear your influence on your sleeve, but instead of being a direct clone, you want to be part of the pack.
Yeah.
Which I think that's what sets you apart, definitely.
Yeah, definitely, man. Again, when I look back at Usurper, I'm proud of all that. It was something that was it meant a lot to me, and that's why it was disappointing that we couldn't get it together for this one show. But hopefully, we'll get to do something else in the future sometime. But make no mistake about it, I'm 100% behind Scythe. I think these two Scythe albums might be some of the best music I've ever written. Again, I don't want to compare it to Usurper. I mean, Usurper is so classic to people and even to myself, and I'm not going to compare the two bands like that. To me, they're different enough. You could tell it's the same guy who's behind both these bands if you're really into it. And if you like Usurper, I can't see how you couldn't like Scythe. But there's definitely with Scythe, we got our own thing going on. And to me, I'm having a blast playing these songs, and this is something that's, I'm enjoying singing and playing, and that adds a different dimension. And to me, it's like now Scythe has become kind of taken off for me creatively, where Usurper left off. But I feel refreshed. I feel like I have so many more ideas even because just the way we approach things at Scythe. I was able to write about some other topics and expand my playing and just the dynamics of working a little more stripped down in a band instead of 5 people, there's only 3, so you got to think about things a little differently. And to me, this is where my full energy is.
Yeah, and I also want to bring up something about Scythe is just like as with Usurper, the artwork has played a big role in the band, especially on the first record and also the second record.
Yeah.
So do you do the artwork? Do you sketch it out before you give it to someone?
Yeah, I do that. I did that with Usurper too. I sketch out, like even go back to Skeletal Season. I did a whole extensive drawing, and I think I still have that, so I'm going to publish that if I ever put up the Skeletal Season CD like I was talking about. But to get to Scythe, yeah, exactly. Like, okay, Beware the Scythe, for instance. If you look at the Primitive Reaction version, which was the CD, and you look at the RIP version, which was the LP, both of them have the same kind of concept going on, but both of them look different. The reason why is I came up with the drawing of this, and I gave it to 2 totally different artists. One was Juha Borma, who did the Skeletal Season artwork. So I gave him that to do the European, the CD version. And then I gave the same sketch to this guy, Damien, from Canada, to do the American version on LP. So when you look at it, they both have the cloaked figure holding the Scythe in front of the gates to the Illuminati fortress, and it's kind of grand looking and stuff. But then you look at both versions, and they both look totally different stylistically and things like that. So again, that's I'll sketch something out, give it to the artist, and then they take it from there. So it's kind of like my sketch is kind of like how the demo would be for a song. When I demo the song, it's the same way, where it sounds one way, and then I give it to the rest of the band, and they enhance it, and it becomes its own it takes on its own life. So you could see it visually with these two other pieces of artwork. And again, like even with Subterranean Steel, you look at the CD, and that was done again by Damien. Then you look at the cassette tape, which is done by Juha Vorma, and they both are totally different, but you can tell it's the same kind of concept. Again, that's what was my original idea for everything.
Yeah, with what I love about the Beware the Scythe, Subterranean Steel, is that there's a total. If you look at this at the artwork, there's a lot of symbolism in it. If you don't, you can either take it from face value and be like, "Oh, cool artwork," put on the record. But if you actually look, you can see a lot of references, little references, but you'll see them. Like obviously, you have the chemtrails on the top of the CD. You can see.
Yeah.
You have Planet X or Nibiru, however you want to say it.
Yep.
You have a lot of references and everything, which I find that very, very interesting. And also, I like when people you could tell when a band's just like, okay, hey man, this sounds really cool. Let's just put that in a song. Oh yeah. And then you ask about it. Oh, I don't really know that much about it. I just thought it sounded cool. Whereas you've done your research.
Yeah, definitely. And that was the thing with Subterranean Steel. Like the CD version, is very expensive, and it was a lot of back and forth with this artist Damien. And the whole plan behind it was, I worked on that. That I worked with a lot. I had the basic sketch of just like the three figures kind of rising up from a post-apocalyptic world. It was very basic. And then with Damien, we went back and forth, and there was also Stan from RIP Records. We would, all three of us would go back and forth, and he was very involved in that too, because Stan really wanted to push his artist to get I would talk to him about the lyrics, and we wanted aspects from every lyric of every song to be represented somewhere within that the illustration. And we wanted a lot of symbolism in there, and a lot of symbolism from songs that we talk about, and symbolism from stuff that I read about and that are in the lyrics. So when you look closely at it, again, I love it too, because we've got criticism for it, and it's so funny. A lot of people love the album artwork, and then occasionally there's a few of the bigger magazines that were saying, "Oh yeah, the artwork kind of tongue-in-cheek, heavy metal looking." It's like, well, it's not tongue-in-cheek. We're serious about it. So if that's how you're perceiving it, that's one thing. We're serious about it, and how you could think something that's totally metal is tongue-in-cheek. It should kind of be a portal into looking at how you view metal, because to me, these classic album cover illustrations are so much better than the modern digital Photoshop tricks that bands put out for album covers. And to me, somebody actually taking time to illustrate and come up with details, and you look at the hours of work both myself and Stan have put into pushing this artist to add more and more details to it. We just wanted it to be extremely detailed and aggressive, and just look like how the riffs sound on that album. So I'm really pleased with that.
Yeah. Would you say, would you be able to kind of go through a little bit, I don't know if you have it on hand, the CD, but certain things that, like you said, each song is represented, or lyrics?
I can if I could find, hang on. Okay, how about this? I can't dig it up right now. Go through song title by song title, and I'll try to describe what's represented on the album cover from it.
Okay.
Again, some of it's just minor, some of it's kind of blatant.
Yeah. Leather Aggressor.
Okay, that one's obvious. There's three figures on the cover. If you look at, that's just the barbarian imagery.
Yeah. Monarch.
So that's secret mind control. If you look at, there's a lot of symbolism of Phoenix rising, and so you look on the back cover, you'll see there's a buzzard at the bottom, kind of like a bottom feeder. So it's kind of reflecting it with that, where it's almost like the opposite, because a monarch is like Project Monarch. They use like a monarch butterfly, and this is like the eggs, almost the opposite of it represented there.
Yeah, because Project Monarch was brainwashing MK Ultra stuff.
Yeah, correct. So it's kind of showing more of the ugly side of it.
Yeah, subterranean steel.
Again, you see the cracked, molten metal coming out from the ground. So you see that on the front and back cover. You see literally the subterranean steel molten and breaking through the ground.
October dies.
Subterranean, Also, subterranean steel also deals with, there's stuff in there about the Anunnaki descending, so you see that on the back cover too. So, okay, October dies. Again, it's very subtle, but you could see just the coloring, and you see in the sky there's the figures of the Anunnaki flying through the sky, almost like bats, and so again, it has some of those elements in there, and also the skeletons you'll see on the back cover. There's skeletons kind of scattered on the ground. Again, if you read the lyrics, October dies, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah. The Grunting Dead.
Okay, so that one, let's see, where, I'm trying to think, the picture on the cover. That one we didn't have any, like, direct references on there. Again, we just had some bodies and bones and ruins. So again, that kind of fits in with the general theme of that song, not the direct theme.
And Beyond the Northwoods is the nuke, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the mushroom cloud blowing up in the background, and even some of the chemtrails and planes going through the sky.
And Nights of Terror would probably be like the city just being on fire, right?
Exactly. You look at the background, it kind of looks like Chicago burning, but it could be any city. But again, it's, the police state run amok, and people at Jetta 21 framing everyone to the end of the world.
And then Thunderhammer is the chemtrails, because kind of like that, right?
The weather warfare, exactly. The weather, and then literally, if you look on like Joey's hand, he's holding the literal Thunderhammer in his hand. So you have like the weather modified weather warfare going on in the sky, and then you actually see the literal Thunderhammer in his hand.
Yeah, and also obviously a lot of people say, "Oh, that's just such a crazy concept of that song." It's funny.
Yeah.
Recently, I don't know how I can't remember how recent, but there was documents declassified about them working on stuff like this. Yeah,
I know. It's funny when a lot of this stuff gets declassified, because then all the same people go back to say, get your tinfoil hat out, or whatever this stupid cliche people use. Then when you, again, it's so frustrating. Then when I confront them on this, like, see, this is what I was talking about. See, it's right here, it's in the open. And I always get the same response, which is, well, yeah, a lot of crazy stuff goes on. Like, yeah, okay, motherfucker, you weren't telling me that before. You're looking at me like I was insane telling you about this. And now that it's out in the open, it's no big deal to you. You're nonchalant about it. So you just can't win with those kind of people.
Yeah, and then also I liked about, what was it? I'm sorry, not Subterranean Steel, Beware the Scythe. Is I actually had to ask you what the heck it was the owl. Well, obviously that represents wisdom, but it's taken from something which would be the cremation of care ceremony, which would be in...
like like in Beware the Scythe, the LP, when you open up like a lyric sheet poster. It's really cool. The design of that was like inspired by Possessed Beyond the Gates, where when I bought the vinyl, you could just keep opening it up, and it was kind of cool. But then it wasn't directly influenced by that. But I wanted something kind of like that, where you see the gates on the cover, you see these doors, and then you open up the lyric sheet vinyl inside, and it's like you have to open the gate, and then you see that the big Moloch being worshipped by all these weird, cloaked figures. And to me, it doesn't even have to be literal. I mean, you just look at that and it just looks strange. So somebody who doesn't even know where the image is from, it's a very strange, haunting image.
Yeah, and also the song, which I think is actually one of the, I think, overlooked songs on this one, is Planet of the Humans.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And that is something that people, once again, you say, oh, put on your tinfoil hat. Once again, there's evidence of that in Peru, in Mexico.
Yeah.
We could probably, if I actually, maybe when I'm doing this interview, I should probably put links or something, but I probably won't. But you want to look it up.
Yeah.
You can look this stuff up. And people think, obviously, put your tinfoil hat on. But what was really cool, once again, this goes to Usurper, is that you pull something totally out of the box that no one else has done.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, a lot of the giant folklore and stuff, and it's been around, it's been written about for centuries, and then there's evidence. They find giant bones, human bones all the time, and they find remnants of these lost civilizations and beings that aren't around anymore. And again, people want to look at it as a science fiction story, that's fine. But with Planet of the Humans, I just thought it was cool. I mean, that was a song that was written for Usurper, but it was totally different. It was real fast. The riffs were a lot different. I kind of slowed it down a little, but kept the same lyrical theme going on in it, and a lot of the same lyrics, and the end part was the same. And again, it's just it's one of those songs where you read it, it could paint a picture in your head of what's going on, and you don't even have to have that much knowledge behind it. But just the concept of Planet of the Humans, it's just other planet descending down onto our planet and enslaving humans. It's kind of, to me, it's kind of an interesting concept.
Yeah, and also they found, those mounds in the south, or I think southeast. They found red-haired giants with 6 fingers, but obviously, that was in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and supposedly the Smithsonian got a hold of them, so it's gone now.
Oh yeah, you won't see that again. Even in Illinois, there's a lot of mounds, earth mounds, and hieroglyphics, and just a lot of weird things, and a lot of things people don't even know about that are around them, and that's it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, it is quite. And then I was going to ask more. We're getting towards the end, but when Scythe played their first show, you guys played with Disaster.
Yeah.
How many shows have you guys played so far? Because that was what, 2008, around there.
I think so, somewhere around there. I'm trying to remember. Maybe it was a little later. That show was before Beware the Scythe even came out. So maybe it was 2010.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe it was 2010. I think we played that. We even, I'm trying to remember offhand how many shows we've played. We've only been under 20. I know that. We haven't played that much. We've had a few mini tours fall through. We've had other things fall through where things look like we're going to get out of the Midwest area. So we've only basically played around the Midwest. And again, it's something that with Scythe, I don't want to sign to a big label. I want to own all my own music. I don't want anyone owning publishing rights. I want to own everything and just license it to labels that are putting it out. And this way it's cooler for the fans. Mainstream people I don't really care about, so I don't care if they get it. The people who are on the fence are just going to download it online or legally put it on YouTube and listen to it, and nothing you can do about that. So I don't want to sign to a big label. So the flip side of that coin is you're not going to get big touring opportunities. You're going to have to make all your own opportunities. But again, it's not something I'm concerned with. I want to play as many places as we can. But if things fall through, if things aren't going to be financially right to do it, then we're not going to do it till the time's right. So I'd say we probably played around maybe about 20 shows,
Okay.
maybe a little under. So we do have more plans, but we'll see what happens.
And then then I guess we'll end off as when's the next Scythe release? Hopefully.
We plan on, if it goes as I'm planning in my head anyway, we should be recording around March or April of 2015. I know for sure it's going to be 4 songs. It's going to be an EP. Like, people don't put those out anymore, but back in the day, going back to like we were talking about earlier when I was a kid, you'd always see bands that would put out EPs, whether it was like Creator, Sodom, Celtic Frost, Slayer, any of those bands always, there'd always be an EP with like 4 songs or something. To me, it was great. I'm not doing it because those bands did it, but because of the feeling I got when you'd be able to at least get an EP. It's kind of, it was cool. You were just kind of really starting to look for some new music, and then you got this thing where it had all original artwork, 4 songs, and it was just, to me, it's definitely part of anyone who really collects albums and vinyls and knows how important like EPs are, where they get overlooked, where everything doesn't need to just be this conglomeration of songs and, giant albums all the time. So I always wanted to do that for Scythe, so we're definitely doing it this time. We're going to put on an EP. 4 songs. I have a lot of stuff written. So far we haven't learned it as band yet, and I don't know what the other guys have that they want to contribute, but I have a lot of stuff right now. So I have, plenty of music. I'm always writing, and I have an archive of songs to choose from, but I'm just getting in my head now exactly what I want to use for this.
That sounds great. And then hopefully we can have a part 2 of this interview with a little more in depth of Usurper stuff.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I think we got some good plans, right, Nathan?
Yeah.
So, good stuff to go. But my voice is really giving out, man. So
any last words to the fans tuning in?
No, just check out any of the websites and pick up the stuff. But buy actual vinyls and CDs. Don't be content with listening to bad MP3s online. But I know they don't give a fuck about that. So, no, that's all. Thanks for the interview, man. Thanks for all the support.
Definitely. Okay.